Oh, what's going on, everybody? It's that time again. It's time for Dr. Movie, the show on wheels, the podcast on wheels, the movie review show on wheels. Whatever it is, it's on wheels because I'm driving and I'm talking. Two things that might go together, okay? Could be dangerous, but I like living on the edge. Living on the edge! Not really. I'm about as calm as they get. That's the reason I review movies instead of, jumping out of airplanes and stuff, because it just seems a little more safe. Anyways, on to this week. I've been covering some movies that are kind of in the horror comedy genre most of this week. Well, I guess all of this week so far. And I couldn't go any further without talking about this one. I really enjoy this movie. It's Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer from 2007. This is one of those perfect bills where if you took this and Tucker and Dale and put them back to back, you'd have an awesome night of movie watching. This one caught me off guard. I remember checking it out when it came out, and I thought, okay, this is not going to be very good. It is low budget, no question about that. And let's look at the synopsis here. Jack Brooks develops major anger issues after he witnesses his parents' murder. Jack's girlfriend is fed up with his demands. He attended anger management classes, and one night, while repairing the pipes at his professor's house, well, it keeps going, unleashes a demonic evil that transforms the teacher into a monster. And it says the evil spreads, transforming everyone to incite into monsters as well. And Jack must harness his anger to defeat them. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading so many words and drive at the same time. I don't recommend it. But yeah, the equivalent of this is if you took... maybe the question was when this started, is like, what would happen if you had Happy Gilmore, the Adam Sandler character? What if you took Happy Gilmore and had him fight monsters? It's kind of what that's like. It's also like the birthing of a new Ash Williams, right, from Evil Dead, Bruce Campbell. A guy who, has kind of been pushed over the edge and becomes the anti-hero, right? That's kind of what you're getting here. But this is done in such a fun way. I really enjoy this movie. Let's talk about our cast. There's not a whole lot to talk about with the cast. I mean, Trevor Matthews is Jack Brooks. Plays a couple of different roles in this movie too. I'm not sure how much involved. I think this movie, for the most part, is kind of his baby. But the takeaway from this, there's you got David Fox in this, who's been in a few things. He is fantastic in this movie. But the one that steals the show, no doubt about it, is Robert Englund. Robert Englund is the professor, and wow, it's one of my favorite performances of his, because it's gross, it's grotesque, and hilarious all at the same time. He really knocks it out of the park with this one. So that's definitely something to be looking for with this movie. But yeah, I mean, Jack Brooks is a young man. He's got anger management problems, which, again, you got Happy Gilmore, but there's also the movie Anger Management, right, that Sandler had, was kind of the same deal. And Jack Brooks is just possible to just fly off the handle at any moment. Everything sets him off. And it just works so well in this movie. But he's going to his therapist. He'll just bust into the therapist without setting up an appointment, and just goes in and just rattles off kind of what his issues are. And then he'll just snap and start yelling at the guy. And, the psychiatrist just absolutely dreads when he comes in, because he knows it's not getting anywhere. And what it leads down to is when Jack Brooks was a kid, he witnessed his parents and his little sister's death out in the woods. They were camping, and this creature comes out of nowhere and pretty much wipes out the whole family, and his dad tells Jack to run and don't look back. And he does. And he's always had this guilt trip ever since that he could at least stayed and done something, right? So this is what's the problem is he won't forgive himself for that situation. And then he was what? 8, 9 years old when this happened. So, but he carries it with him everywhere. And you kind of get to see flashes of him like in high school, and he's having to run laps in PE or whatever. And the coach calls him in and asks him, well, how many laps was that? I think he says like 8, 9, I don't know. And he said, okay, now apologize. And he apparently, roughed up a kid. Who knows why? It don't really matter. But that's the kind of person you're dealing with. Somebody just snaps and reacts and then has to pay the price. And he's grown up. He's going to night school to try to finish up his education. Life hasn't been kind to him. He looks like he never sleeps. He's a plumber outside of school, so that's his job. And he shows up late for class, and Robert Englund's his teacher. At the end of class, Professor Gordon asked Jack to come out to his house because he's got a plumbing issue. And he goes out there, and yeah, it's an old house, old system, and it's all jacked up. And when he's messing with it, the pressure release valve breaks off. For all you plumbers out there, you know what I'm talking about. And it snaps off and hits Jack Brooks in the head. And of course, he goes into a rant again. And while that happens out in the front yard, this hole opens up in the yard, and this light and smoke starts coming out of it, very much like Evil Dead. And Jack Brooks doesn't really mess with that too much, but Robert Englund goes out there and starts digging, and he finds a crate buried in the yard, and he pulls the crate out, opens it up, and there's a skeleton in it, and just filled with all kinds of junk, right? But he sees this one thing, and he reaches and grabs it and pulls it out, and it's a heart, like a human heart. And he takes it in the house, and he's looking at it, and something compels him to just take a bite out of it, just like Jason Goes to Hell, right? And he ingests the heart, and the fun begins. He becomes this creature, and he's still trying to teach class, but it's it's just insane. He's getting up there, and he's throwing up on the blackboard. I mean, he looks like death. And, and he's up there, and he, like I said, he throws up on the board, and he turns around to the class and goes, I'm starving. Class dismissed. I mean, he hadn't been there like 20 seconds. And everybody knows that something's just wrong, right? So, and it just keeps getting worse and worse until eventually he becomes a full-fledged monster. And, of course, Jack Brooks has a girl in the class that he's kind of sweet on. They're kind of boyfriend, girlfriend, but she's high maintenance. And that's the last thing he needs because he can't even take care of himself. And there's this one guy in the class that's kind of a pretty boy, and he's trying to smooth things over. He's trying to move in on Jack Brooks' girlfriend, and you just hate this guy. I mean, he's just one of those guys you're like, yeah, something's got to happen to this guy because I just can't stand him. And they're out in the parking lot after class is over, and he comes up to Jack, and he's like, look, man, Jake, you got to calm down. He's like, my name's Jack. He said, we've known each other so long, Jake. And he's like, we don't know each other, and my name's Jack. He's like, Jake, listen, you just need to chill out, man. You just need to go smoke some reefer. And Jack Brooks just gets to where he can't stand anymore and just throat punches the guy. Lays him out in the parking lot and drives off in his van. I mean, it's full of that kind of stuff. It's so much fun. there's a scene where he's trying to leave the professor's house and his van won't start. And he just goes in this rage and almost rips the steering wheel out of the console. It's just, I don't know, it works so well. You just find yourself just really enjoying this flick. When it's all said and done, Professor Gordon basically turns into it's like a cross between Henrietta from Evil Dead 2 and Chet from Weird Science. He looks more like Chet, but he's still got kind of Robert Englund's face. And again, I know this is very low budget, but for what this movie is, it's pretty freaking awesome. The effects are pretty dang decent. And they feel more at home in an 80s flick, because that's what you're getting. It's 80s style, practical effects. I don't know. I really like it. It has, the creature has kind of facial expressions and all that stuff. But what it starts doing, these tentacles shoot out of it, which can go pretty much the length of the hallways of the school. And it starts grabbing the kids and pulling them in and lining them up against the wall. And it takes the kids one by one and sets them on the ground. And this other tentacle comes out of the professor's mouth and goes into whatever kid he's got on the ground, their mouth, and turns them into a demon, a zombie demon. They look a lot like, what was it? I'll think of it here in a second. Demon Knight from Tales from the Crypt. They kind of have that kind of look about them. Little Evil Dead-ish as well. And so now they're running around doing his bidding. And Jack Brooks and his girlfriend are trying to get away, and they're being chased by these demons. They run out, and there's one lady that becomes a demon and jumps on this guy and starts chewing on, like he's like a janitor of the school. And it's very reminiscent of what he saw happen to his dad. And him and his girlfriend run out, and they get in the van, and when they're driving, he hears a song playing on the radio, which is the song that was playing when his parents got killed, and it makes him realize, I have to do this. So he makes his girlfriend get out in the parking lot. He goes back in, he puts on his tool belt, and goes to take care of business. And it's everything you expect out of like I said, Ash Williams, Reggie Bannister, fighting evil kind of thing, right? Where everything becomes a weapon, and the anger management obviously helps because he confronts many of the demons and just snaps and just beats their heads in with, anything he can find, and saves the day, eventually. So I don't want to give too much away so you can check it out. But this movie has a wraparound too. It starts off out in the forest, out in the jungle, really, somewhere, we don't know where. And these tribesmen are fighting this creature. It's a big cyclops. And the tribesmen go back to this little hut, and they start yelling, and inside is Jack Brooks, because you don't know who he is at the time. And he's growing out some dreadlocks and stuff, and he's like just sitting here meditating, right? And at the end of the movie, it goes back to that, and he talks about after he did all this at the school, it made him feel better, and he couldn't go back to normal life. This is what he has to do in order to stay sane and make him feel better about himself. So he's now Jack Brooks, the Monster Slayer. And one thing he does before that, he goes back and finds the creature that killed his parents and takes care of that one as well. So, you know what? Highly recommend this one. If you like any kind of humor in your horror flicks, this one is just fantastic. It's on Tubi for free, so you can't go wrong with that. Like I said, that and Tucker and Dale are both on Tubi for free. So I say do you a double bill with this one, man. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. It's almost a 5 out of 5 for me. If I watched it a few more times, it probably would be. It seems pretty quotable. if you watch it enough. And it's just a whole lot of fun. And it's well executed. And I don't know. I say you give this one a chance, without a doubt. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised if you haven't seen it. So there you go. That's my take on Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer from 2007. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, if you got any comments, any recommendations of something you want me to cover, just let me know. I'll be glad to do it. All right, folks, that's it for this one. We will check you later.